Hi, I'm Steve with the Shoebill Studio, and this is the all-in guide for Cthulhu Death May Die, Seasons 3 and 4, Fear of the Unknown. What we've got here on the table before us is the entire all-knowing pledge, except for two add-ons are missing, Really Arising and the Unspeakable Box. Now, we're not going to be covering either of these fully in this video because they're reprints from the original Cthulhu Death May Die Kickstarter from back in like 2018. Anyways, back to the all-knowing pledge. Everything over here is what CMON considers to be retail, and everything over here is what CMON considers to be Kickstarter exclusive, with the single exception of the Rillian Seizures Insanity card. And this Insanity card was considered to be limited promo, so we're going to keep it on the Kickstarter side of things. Today is not going to be a review of Cthulhu Death May Die Seasons 3 and 4, but really it's kind of a tour through all of the different boxes that you might see available online that were part of the Kickstarter. So whether you're a completionist who's looking to collect all of the different things available, or if you're just interested in maybe picking up a new expansion here or there, you'll know whether or not what's inside a particular box is really a gameplay mechanic or a set of investigators that you would be interested in playing. Especially for the things over here, which can kind of become pretty pricey pretty quickly since they're exclusive. Let the hate flow or the love flow, whichever one you got, put it in the comments below. We'll start with the core set. You don't actually need anything else but this box right here to play Cthulhu Death May Die. So as you can see, the core set has a lot to offer. And that's a really good thing because the nature of the setup of this game is sort of more variety, the better. And for the uninitiated, the way that Cthulhu Death May Die works is at the beginning of each game, you select an Elder God, your team of investigators, and then an episode. And so every time you sit down to play, it could be a different combination of all of those things. This core set alone comes with two Elder Gods that have fully unique setups, moves, 4 phases of how they sort of move through the game based on what you've accomplished on the board and then how much damage you've dealt to them in the final battle. Additionally, there are 7 monster types and of course the cultists. There are also 6 episodes that have objectives and mechanics and a special map, and it's unique and thematically its own thing. And then 10 investigators that are all pretty interesting. Each of them has a unique skill that only they have, and then 2 other skills that come from a shared pool of skills that all the investigators can pull from. So every time you sit down with the core set alone, you're going to have a very different experience. In fact, you can play it sort of roulette style where you randomize all of the aspects. You roll a die to determine the Elder Guides, your episode, and then your investigators, and you see if you can triumph. But really the star of the show are the Elder Gods, and I wanted to give you a quick flavor of both of them real quick. The first of which is Ithaqua. And Ithaqua is this giant toad demon looking guy with awesome wings and a tongue hanging out of his mouth, and he introduces a fatigue mechanism that sort of decreases your health and stress pool and makes it harder for you to heal. If you don't jump on managing this fatigue mechanism, you'll sort of get yourself into a position where the heal or rest action doesn't really do enough and you can sort of spiral out of control. The second Elder God in the core set is Azathoth, and Azathoth will buff all of the other monsters on the board, increasing their health and attack abilities, but more importantly, they will speed up the game by introducing more advancement cards into the Mythos deck that makes the game a real race against time, but also your own sanity holding out before you can defeat Azathoth himself. And it doesn't stop there. This core set is considered Season 3 of Cthulhu Death May Die and comes with an updated rule set, as well as a new game mode called the Unknown Monster, Unknown Movement game mode, which the movement aspect of it gives you a little bit of randomness as far as your Elder God encounters. Sometimes when you've played an encounter a number of times, you'll sort of know how to anticipate the movements of Elder Gods, and this adds an element that allows that to be randomized. Increase in a little bit of difficulty there, which is always a fun thing once you've played a game a lot. The other part of this new game mode is the Unknown Monster game mode, and it's these purple cards that on the back say Unknown Monster. And this core set comes with cards for all of the monsters that are in this box, but also all of the monsters that are from Season 1 and Season 2. so that you can retroactively bring this game mode into all of your old Cthulhu Death May Die. My favorite part is that on each of the unknown monster cards, there's now an action that is related to the advancement track for the Elder God. So every time you get an advancement, all of your smaller monsters also get a special action, which brings a lot of sort of variety and spice into games that, you know, maybe you've played this particular episode before with this monster setup, and that sort of changes everything as far as your unknown monsters are concerned. Another really fun part of the unknown monster game mode is that players now have access to 12 powerful relics that sort of give you a bonus at the beginning of the game with an item of great power. And this item also gets better and better the more sanity you lose. So it's there to provide you a little bit of balance against some of these more powerful creatures that show up in the unknown mode. Also, you can decrease the difficulty of the game through the use of these relics by just not including the monsters at all. So maybe you're teaching the game to a group for the first time, or you just have a group of players that is not really interested in, you know, getting their butts handed to them really hard. Add some relics to the mix, and it gives you a little bit of an edge. And that's everything for the core set. There's a ton to play in just this single box. You really can sink your teeth in and get a good sense of what this game is all about if you've never played it before. There's tons of variety between the two Elder Gods, all of the different monsters, investigators, episodes. You really have plenty to do here if you're looking to just dip your toe into the world of Cthulhu Death May Die. So the next box that we're going to take a look at is the Season 4 expansion for Cthulhu Death May Die, Fear the Unknown. And this comes with 6 new episodes, as well as 1 Elder God that's brand new. And you also get 7 different monster types, 6 new investigators, and you get 17 new tiles that are gorgeous. Some of them are definitely a different feel and theme than from what is in the core box. You get 4 new Insanity cards, and then of course you get all the cards and necessary pieces to incorporate any of the monsters here into the unknown mode. Let's take a second to talk about the new Elder God, Nyarlathotep. And Nyarlathotep is all about fire. They start on the board in human form, and they are immune to your attacks. And then as you progress the fight, the full-on avatar of the Elder God will come out onto the board and bathe you in flames. They do some cool mechanics with cultists where they're sort of using them to heal. And so it kind of gets you in that classic raid mindset where you're really trying to line up damage to push into phases, to, you know, get through things quickly, but also make sure that you're being efficient and not wasting any of your damage. They also come with Moon Beasts, which are the signature monster that comes in this Elder God box. And they kind of play on the investigator's sanity, running through it as elder signs are rolled on dice. So a very fun Elder God to play with, unless you're somebody that really does not enjoy the fire mechanics in Cthulhu Death May Die. The investigators in this expansion are also quite interesting. Some of them even have their own tokens that they get to play with, but you've got Gary here, for instance, who can throw dynamite. He's got some dynamite tokens that he throws. And then you have Annika, who has a special ability with elder signs. When she rolls them, she can sort of generate a resource called knowledge, which allows her to spend that knowledge on investigation, and then ultimately when she's leveled all the way up in Arcane Student, she can spend it to actually level up her other skills. Then you've got John with his leadership ability that allows him to control other investigators on the board. And then you have Sylvia, who is a reformed cultist who gets different bonuses to different skills whenever she, you know, makes an action against a cultist or kills a cultist. Then we have Rosario, who has the special skill Boisterous, which allows her to roll an extra green die when attacking, but she sort of makes a lot of noise and starts attracting other monsters toward her. As she levels that up, she gets more dice and does damage to monsters that get too close. So sort of like a bizarre ranged tank. Don't let them get too close, I guess. Anyways, very interesting character. And then lastly, we have Bruno, whose special skill is Vicious, which essentially makes him a better fighter. He gets more dice when he is flying solo and alone in a space with no other investigators. The Season 4 expansion is a great expansion for anybody that's looking to add versatility and variety to their core box set. It almost doubles the amount of content that you have between the two boxes from the core set to Season 4. And all of it's compatible with the Unknown system as well. The number of permutations that you can now have between investigators, episodes, elder gods, and whatever else you're adding to the table really just starts to get up into wild numbers. It's going to be very unlikely, unless you play this game a lot, that you would be able to see every single combination of the three major factors that make the game up. So definitely a cool one. I think if you find the fire mechanic very loathsome, you will probably not be interested in Nyarlathotep. But otherwise, yeah, this one adds a ton of variety and certainly extends the legs of the core set mightily. Our next box is the Standalone Elder God Ithaqua. And it comes with everything that you would need to incorporate it into any complete Cthulhu Death May Die experience, meaning the core set in any of the expansions. It's got the minion card for Ithaqua, as well as Ithaqua's actual cards that dictate their different phases and stages, the Mythos cards that are required that make up half of the Mythos deck, and then of course the minis and the special mechanisms that Ithaqua uses. Held in stark contrast with the Season 4 Elder God Nyarlathotep, which was like all about fire and lighting the board and you on fire, Ithaqua actually is about snow and has a blizzard that they bring onto the board that sort of moves around and chases you. The blizzard does stress damage to you, but also Ithaqua has a signature minion called a Shantak. There are two miniatures for that monster, and the Shantaks sort of are blizzard callers, and they bring the blizzard closer to you every time you engage with them in battle and you get certain outcomes. This is a great stress management fight that really requires you to consider positioning as it relates to the blizzard itself. And it's great that the blizzard actually sort of gets stronger and stronger as Ithaqua moves through all of their phases. Elder Gods are really impactful in Cthulhu Death May Die. They dictate many of sort of the world passives that you experience in your episode playthroughs. And this is definitely an expansion that punches above its weight class as far as expanding your gameplay options without giving you a ton of shelf bloat. All right, on to our first Kickstarter exclusive box, the Unknowable Box. And this was the stretch goal, daily goal sort of catch-all for the campaign. And so lots of different investigators and all sorts of stuff we'll talk about. Perhaps most importantly is the Elder God set of this box, and that is Nug and Yeb. And these two guys are essentially like dueling Elder Gods that work together as a single Elder God experience, but you can sort of have one be the main Elder God and then the other one, sort of plays second fiddle. But it allows for there to be two Elder God experiences in one box. There's also the influence table that they come with that introduces even more chaos to their end phase activations and what comes out of the Mythos deck. That's double-sided, one side for Yeb, one side for Nug, and they both sort of have different specialties that they, inflict upon you. Obviously, they come ready to slot into whatever episode that you're planning on playing, be it from the core set or from an expansion. And they add a ton of flexibility as far as bang for your buck out of a single Elder God box. Like I said, it's essentially 2 for 1. Additionally, there are 7 new monster types that come with their unknown monster cards ready to be slotted into the extra difficulty mode, as well as any episodes that call for them. There are 2 Halloween-themed relics that come with this box as well. The skull, which turns into the Headless Horseman skull, and the pumpkin, which turns into the jack-o'-lantern. You'll also find 4 lost episodes, which are sort of like deluxe episodes. They come with their own miniatures, and sometimes that can be like a group of minis that would just be sort of normal monsters that are unique to that episode. But oftentimes there are sort of standalone signature miniatures that are like mini bosses or a sort of character that dictates the flow of the mission and also combat. There are lots of interesting mechanics in these 4 boxes just alone, spanning a number of very interesting quest styles. I don't want to ruin anybody's surprise as far as any episodes in any of these boxes go, so I won't be going into too much detail about any of that stuff. Suffice to say, they're quite enjoyable. Another excellent aspect of the Lost episodes is that they all come with their unknown monster cards to take all of the monsters that are from these episodes and slot them into any of the unknown monster mode variants that you would be playing with the core set or whatever expansion you're interested in at the time. So lots of flexibility and variety just in these 4 boxes alone. Now, really the meat and potatoes of the Unknowable box, in my opinion, are the 28 investigators that come with it. Each of these investigators has, just like every other investigator, a special skill that is unique to them, and some of them in this box are pretty interesting. For instance, you have Anita, who is a beast tutor for her special ability, and she comes with Anita's command spell, which is a discovery card. And this allows her to mind control monsters throughout the game and sort of allow them to take hits for her, but also she gets a buff to her dice for rolls based on whether or not she has a monster under her control. As she levels it up even further, she gets more dice and becomes more powerful based on how many points she's allotted to this skill. You've also got George, the crazy cook, who has charge as their special ability, and it's exactly what you would expect charge to be. They can charge in from a distance, and once you level up George's charge skill, he also gets extra damage based on how far he has charged to then attack a monster. There are a lot of different cool abilities in this box for these investigators, and again, it just adds to the amount of variety that you can experience in one of the episodes, either the Lost episodes included here, or something from the core set, or a different expansion. So there's an immense amount of gameplay variety to be had in the Unknowable box. Unfortunately, this is one of the pieces that can get a little bit pricey just because it is an exclusive and it has so many different things that change gameplay for the core set and expansions. But if you're looking for like maximum weird abilities, as well as one of the more unique Elder Gods between Nug and Yeb, this really is a cool box that gives you a ton of different things. And don't forget, all of the monsters, again, they come with their unknown monster cards, so you can take them and put them into that hard mode version of the game across every other iteration of Cthulhu Death May Die. Also included in the Unknowable box's unknown monster cards are the unknown monster cards for the monsters included in the Unspeakable box, which is the large Kickstarter catch-all for the original Cthulhu Death May Die Kickstarter campaign. So just a lot of playtime that this adds, many, many hours. All right, so we've got 2 Kickstarter exclusives on the table currently. The first of which are these frost dice. They have sort of a different finish to them, but more or less, other than that, they are the same as the base dice from the core set. But over here we have the Animal Allies box, which is a very interesting expansion because it provides 5 new unique relics for the unknown mode gameplay. And allies are special because as long as they're in your space, they follow you on the board. But also as a free action, once per turn, you can move them up to 3 spaces. Additionally, each ally card is double-sided just like any relic card. It has the starting side and then the side that triggers once you reach a certain sanity threshold. And each one of these pets sort of has a specialty, like a skill that they bring to the table that's unique. For instance, Percy the Owl will shuffle items between players for you, sending, maybe a nice weapon back and forth between folks that are using that. And then you've got Luna the Rottweiler, who will defend you by taking wounds and also give you extra rerolls when you're being attacked. And then you've got Titus the Chimpanzee, who will do some damage for you here and there. And then the Sphinx Cat, Midna, who is a pretty interesting character that will kite monsters around and sometimes do damage to them. And then finally, you've got Celeste the Snake, who gives free rerolls while investigators attack. So this is a pretty cool expansion in a number of ways. Most notably, I think it's really awesome to add more option to the relic system, give us more things that we can sort of try out and have as powers starting from the jump. But I really like this because it's an even more powerful version of a relic that I think would really go nicely with teaching folks that have never played this game how to play Cthulhu Death May Die. This can be a fairly punishing game at times, especially if you have difficult sort of combinations between episodes and particular Elder Gods. And so any way that we can provide extra strength and power, maybe some better action economy for players who have never played before, I'm all game for that. I really like this expansion. I think it's fun, to have a pet that follows you around and sort of gives you like a special ability. Also, it brings a little tension to the game when you're kind of concerned about your precious puppy dog Luna not getting smoked by some cosmic horror. So very interesting expansion that I think brings a good amount of variety, and also like a nice variable difficulty lever for us to pull on if that's something that our group is looking for. And here we are, we finally made it to the last 3 pieces of the Kickstarter campaign, which is literally just 3 cards. You've got 2 Kickstarter exclusive relics over here, and then 1 limited promo insanity card over here. The relics are pretty interesting. The Ivory figure has you sort of trading sanity for buffing different actions on your turn, like running an additional space or getting a green die for an attack at the cost of 1 sanity. And then the skull bracelet allows you some rerolls on attacks. Now things get pretty interesting when we look at the Rillian Seizures Insanity card. Basically the way that this card works is once you hit that sanity mark, you put a wound on this card, and the player that has this insanity is no longer allowed to communicate with any teammates in any intelligible language. They have to speak in gibberish or grunts or point, this sort of thing. This is a very common theme in many Lovecraftian stories. And then once you hit another sanity marker, you'll remove the wound token from this and be relieved to some degree of this burden of speaking in gibberish. But the next sanity marker that you hit, you'll be back to gibberish. So is this really a reasonable thing to include in, an actual game or a playthrough that you're taking seriously? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on your group. But I could definitely see it being a lot of fun, especially if you are playing sort of on some of the easier levels of difficulty, maybe with some of the allies as relics and no unknown monsters. It could be fun, a little bit of goofiness inserted into an otherwise fairly difficult game. Always something that I find to be enjoyable. So that's everything in the all-knowing pledge for Cthulhu Death May Die, Fear of the Unknown Seasons 3 and 4. It's a lot of content with a ton of variety and definitely some interesting combinations that you can mix and match to brew up all sorts of weird Elder God nonsense. And certainly a game I've enjoyed a lot, but it's a pretty big investment, and I hope that this helps you make a more informed decision about what parts of the game, which expansions and which add-ons would be fun for you and your game group to play. If you have any questions, make sure to drop them in the comments below. I read everyone and I'm happy to help out. Additionally, we've got some awesome folks who are part of the Shoebill Studio community that comment frequently and probably could help field any questions that I can't. If you found this useful, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. It really helps me continue to make these videos regularly. I do reviews, deep dives, buyer's guides, video essays about all sorts of gaming stuff, and we try to upload every week on Saturday. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.